Hey guys, the other day I put up a question or a post or whatever on my community tab saying that I wanted to do more Chromebook material, but I wanted to know what you guys wanted to see. And I had a few people respond, which was awesome. I just got my community tab the other day, or fairly recently really, and I've just started using it and I've had really good results and I'm really stoked about that. But somebody on here said that I should do a video about something called Batocera, I guess is how it's pronounced. And I had never heard of it before. And so I did some research on it and realized that it is like a ROM emulation thing like RetroPie or something like that, where you can emulate all of your old favorite arcade games through ROMs. So I immediately started figuring out how it worked and ended up turning my Chromebook into a portable retro gaming station. And I thought I would just take a little while today. I think it may be a bit of an intricate video to show how to get it from the internet, get it onto a USB stick, boot it, and then actually install it to be a permanent operating system on your Chromebook. So I guess with all of that being said, let's go ahead and jump into all of the other stuff that's going to get us where we want to be by the end of this video. Okay, so a little bit of a disclaimer here. In order for this to work on your Chromebook, again, I'm specifying this for Intel-based Chromebooks because that's what we're doing this whole process on. You're going to have to modify the BIOS in your Chromebook to be able to boot from USB. Now, I've made a couple of videos about how to do things like install Windows and install Linux and different versions of Linux and things like that. I've also got a video that I recorded a while back and uploaded and it's called Install Windows or Linux on your Intel-based Chromebook. I encourage you to go watch that to learn how to modify your BIOS so that you can basically unlock your BIOS to install basically any kind of operating system you want on your Intel-based Chromebook. It is kind of a precursor to this, but just know that you have to be able to boot from USB in order to get this to work on your Chromebook. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is actually download the ISO or the image file so that we can get started. I will have a link to this Batocera webpage down in the description below, so you can go down there and click that to get to where I am on the screen now. So of course we're going to click download because that's the logical place to go next. And here we can see all of the different architectures that this will work with. We've got x86 and x64, so that's your 32-bit and your 64-bit computers. They're listed out here as standard computers for 64-bit and old computers for 32-bit. I tend to agree with them on this. Also keep in mind that if you need to, for whatever reason, you can run 32-bit applications on 64-bit processors, but you cannot run 64-bit applications on 32-bit processors. So that's something to keep in mind. Also, they've got stuff for Raspberry Pis and Odroids and things like that. So download the one that's specific to you. In this case, we're going to download the one for the computer. And over here, you can just click on the download link. I've got a 64-bit processor in my Chromebook, so we'll go ahead and click that. And it's about 780 megs, roughly. Give that some time to download. And then once that's done downloading, we'll skip over to the next step. Okay, so here we are on my desktop. You can see that I've got a folder here called Batocera that's got a couple of files in it, as well as Win32 Disk Imager open next to it. Now, both of these are compressed into like a zip file. That's what that .gz means. And so basically what we've got to do is extract that. I'm going to use the 64-bit, so I'm just going to right-click on that and say extract here. I'll give this a second to extract. And then you can see that we just get a .img file, so that's cool. That means we're on the right track there. Any second now. There we go. All right, so yeah, 1.85 gigabytes. So that's good. You should only need a couple of gigs on your SD or your USB stick, maybe a 4 gig. This is an 8 gig. So I'm going to use this. I'm just going to go and plug that in. And then over here, you can see that it picked up the H drive there, so that's good. Next, I'll go ahead and click on the little blue folder. I'll go to my desktop, open this up, and right there is that image file that we just extracted. So we'll go ahead and click on Write, and then say yes. And this is a couple of gigs, so it'll take a few minutes. We'll go ahead, let this finish up, and then we'll come back and actually get into the installation process on the Chromebook. Okay, so here is the Acer Intel Chromebook. It's plugged in. Make sure you plug it in. This may take a while. You'll probably drain your battery. So make sure that you keep this thing plugged in. Of course, then we need to use our USB stick here. So we're going to go ahead and plug that in, and then hit the power button. And immediately it pops into Batocera Linux. This process will take just a little while it kind of figures some things out and goes through its initial boot process. So we'll go ahead and let it think for a minute, and then we'll get to the install process once it's booted up. Also, I should mention that this black screen will sit here for a minute. And it's a little bit scary the first time. Just let it sit here for a minute and run through its processes and do what it's got to do. And eventually you will get to this white screen, and immediately it'll pop up to some of the consoles that are immediately available on it. Like, for instance, Commodore 64, Super Nintendo, and there's more that it will support, but these are ones that have some games in them that are, say, like open source or whatever the case may be. I figured I should probably just throw my face up there. I know you guys miss it if it's not there. So here we are. Like I said, we're back on the desktop here for Batocera, and you could plug in a controller and kind of go through some of the things that way, but sometimes the controllers aren't the best way to do this. So you can actually just tap the space bar. It'll bring up the main menu here. And basically what we want to do, first things first, we want to install this, right? We want this to be the primary operating system on this device. So it makes sense to go into System Settings and then scroll down to where it says Install Batocera on a new disk. If we click on that and wait a second, you definitely want to give it a second here to think about it. This part's a little bit slow while it's going through some of this stuff for the first time. But eventually it should pop up a screen that gives us some more options. Okay, so here we've got target device, target architecture, and validation. So the Kingston, that's the internal SSD. That's cool. We want to see that. Target architecture. If you try to navigate left and right there, it's going to crash. And the reason for that is in order to do this, we actually have to connect it to the internet first. I don't know why they've done it this way. I think it's actually going to have to pull up system information, that sort of thing, to download the right information. But now we get to do a reset and reboot and connect to the internet first. I knew that was going to happen, but I wanted to show you that would happen in case you tried to go out of order or you didn't want to follow along. That's what'll happen if you don't do this in the right order. So once it gets up to that console screen where we can see all the different consoles and whatnot, the first thing we need to do is actually connect it to the internet. So once we get back to that screen, we'll hit the space bar, and then we'll just go down to network settings. And again, we're going to give this a second to load. It will take it just a second, but once that pops up, then we can put in our wireless SSID as well as our password for that SSID, and then we can connect everything, and then we can actually go through the installation process. Cool. So here it is, network settings. We've got our status, our IP address, neither of those are connected. Host name is Batocera, that's fine. We actually want to turn that on. The Wi-Fi SSID, this is going to be specific to you. So I'm going to enter my information, connect to the internet, and then we'll continue. Oh, I should also mention that the keyboard here doesn't work. You're actually going to have to use the arrow keys and manually click each one, and it sucks. I wish there was a way around that, but from what I can tell, there isn't. And then once you've got all of this typed in and ready to go ahead and click, go to back and click Enter. It says Wi-Fi enabled. We'll click OK. And let's just go back in there to make sure that it actually connected the way it was supposed to. Cool. So we're connected. We've got an IP address. Everything there is good. So now we can go back. We can go into System Settings. Then we can go to Install Batocera. Again, this will take just a second to boot up. Target is fine. So now we've got some options here for whatever we want to install as. This is a 64-bit operating system and processor, so I'm going to select x86_64 and validation. This is just so you don't accidentally do this for some reason. This is also very common, like when you're rooting a phone or jailbreaking or whatever it's called these days. A lot of times they'll make you click down several spots before you can click OK, just as a fail-safe. So go and click yes, I'm sure. Go and click install, and it's going to say working. It's doing its thing. It's going to download some stuff, and this is why it needed to connect to the internet. This will take a little while, and then once it's done, the process should be good to go, and we'll just go ahead and continue from there. There you can kind of see it. Now it says downloading 12%. So we'll just go ahead and let this sit here for a while, and then, like I said, once it's done downloading and installing, we'll move forward. Cool, so now it's finished the actual download, and now it's going to go through the process like it says here. Reading the disk SDA, I think they mean writing the disk, but can't win them all, but it's definitely something that I actually just noticed for the first time there. So while it's doing this, again, it'll take it probably a few minutes to write all of the data, and then at that point we should be able to reboot straight into our new portable retro gaming system. Cool, so now it's finished. That also doesn't look right, but whatever, it says it's done. So we can go and click OK, and then we should be able to click back, and then quit, and then we're going to click on restart the system. Yep, we're going to really restart. I'm going to take this this out. We don't need this anymore. So it's going to go ahead and reboot, and hopefully it should boot back up, and we should get back to our desktop. You know what, just to expedite this, I'm gonna just force a reboot on it. Cool, so that's good. Again, I've got this out, it's not plugged in. We're booting natively straight into the system here. And then we're gonna do something a little bit different to maybe make this a little bit easier on the eyes and whatnot. And I'll show you how to set it up so that you can actually port this out via HDMI, in this case into my capture card, but you could also port this out to, say, like a TV or an external monitor, something like that. So let's do that, and then we'll pop this up on the screen and make it a little prettier for you guys to watch some of the stuff moving forward. So obviously HDMI cable. So the next thing that we'll want to do here is press the space bar again. We're going to go into system settings, maybe. I honestly don't remember on this particular part. Video output, here we go. So it's under UI settings, video output. Because I don't have an HDMI cable actually plugged in on the other end, it's not sending and receiving a signal, so we're not actually seeing video output, but once I plug it into my capture card, we should see that, and then we'll come back in just a second there. And like I said, once I got it plugged in on both ends, now we can actually set that HDMI, so I'll go ahead and just go ahead and go back. And it's going to need to reboot. I don't know if you can actually see that, maybe a little bit there. And then once it does, we'll go ahead and pull it up on our screen. Okay, so here we are back on our desktop. I'm actually going to record this for the second time now. Really, the only thing that we're going to have to kind of skip over a little bit, and I'm still going to explain it, is that in order to get ROMs on here, like you can see that Nintendo's got 1, PC Engine has 2, Doom's got 2, Super Nintendo's got 1, and these are all, you know, things like Donkey Kong Classic. These are things that are free to distribute, so it came with it just kind of to demonstrate But of course, we want to be able to put our own ROMs on there. And in order to do that, we're going to have to make sure that we're connected to a network. And by default, we're not. So I'm just going to go ahead and back out. I'm going to press spacebar again. And then we can go into network settings. Chances are you won't be connected at this point, but you'll just go through that same process as before to enter or to turn Wi-Fi on, enter your SSID and your key, and then it should connect. And once you're connected, you want to make note of that IP address that's up there, that 1.32. Yours is going to be different. That IP address for you will be different, but what you'll want to do is just make note of that, because the next thing we need to do is actually go over to our local desktop, and in in our file explorer here, what we're going to do is we're going to do 2 backslashes and then the 192.168.1. In my case 32. Again, your IP address probably will be different, but that's what mine is. So I'm just going to do // that IP address, and I'm going to hit enter. Then I'm going to go ahead and open up the share folder, and then there's going to be a bunch of other stuff in here like music and ROMs and all kinds of stuff. What we want to focus on primarily here, though, is the ROMs folder. And what you're going to see here is there's a bunch of folders already in here. It looks like there's 65 already. And you can see that they're named to reflect the system that they're for, like Game Boy Advanced, Game Boy Color, Mega Drive, Nintendo Entertainment Center, PS2, Virtual Boy. It's all in there. And you can see on my side that I've got some ROMs on my local system that I'm going to go ahead and copy over that are named the same already. So I'm just going to drag these over. It may have a fit because I already started this process once and then realized I wasn't recording this. So yay, go me. But while it's thinking, while it's copying all this stuff over, it's going to take it a little while. Again, it's doing this over Wi-Fi. If your Chromebook has an Ethernet cable, this would be a cool time to hook that up, if only for this part. But we'll go ahead and let this copy over, and then we're going to do a system reboot. You can do a manual scrape and have it figure things out, but I like to do a reboot once everything is copied over, and then we'll jump back into the rest of this. Okay, so now we are back. We're back on the desktop. Everything finished copying over. You can see these blue highlighted folders, the ones that copied. So all of that's good to go at this point. So now what we'll do is we'll switch back over to here. We're going to go ahead and back out of all of this. And then again, like I said, I'm just going to press the space bar. I'm going to scroll all the way down to quit. I'm going to do a system restart. I'm going to say, yes, I really want to restart. And then we're going to go ahead and wait just a second for it to reboot like it's doing it there. So that's cool. Almost ready here. Again, nothing in the Commodore 64 folder, but if I go over to the Super Nintendo folder, hey, now we've got a crap ton of games in there. So we'll go ahead and press enter, and now you can see, you can just, I'm just using arrow keys on my keyboard here, and you can see that it'll scroll through it pretty quickly. If there's a certain, alphanumeric thing you want to get to, you can do that. Next thing I want to do here is actually plug in a controller so that we've got that. Cool, that's not what I wanted to do. So let's back out of there. No, exit. I just pressed the escape button. But let's go ahead. Oops. We'll do this. And we're going to go into controller settings. Again, there's a lot of different options for controllers out there, and they've actually done a really good job as far as making it so that you can control just about any kind of controller here. Whether it's pairing a Bluetooth controller or a USB controller like I'm using here, I'm going to say go ahead, and I'm actually pressing the B button on my controller here to do this. I'm just going to press and hold that, and now we can go through the process of up, down, left, right. Now we don't have a joystick on this little controller, so I'm just going to press and hold, in this case B, and I'm just going to keep doing that on anything I don't have something to configure there. And of course, A, B, X, Y, start, select, and then I can do the 2 bumpers for that. So left and right, and I don't have any of this other stuff. So I'm just going to keep pressing and holding B to get through each one of these. And then hopefully, sure, why not? I'm sure that's going to screw me up, but you know, whatever. So then we'll go down here and we'll click on back. And we'll click back, and then we'll go ahead and go into here. And oh, darn it, I clicked left, or clicked right. Oh, there it goes. Sometimes it does that. I've actually had that happen on where it'll skip left and right, but it's still scrolling here. I've had that happen on like Raspberry Pi and that as well. So let's see. Oh, here we go. Super Mario Kart. And there's no audio on here. You can turn audio on. There's a setting in here. Oops. Of course. If you go into here and you go into sound settings, by default system volume set to 0. I don't know why, but it is. And you can change your audio to just about whatever you want. I'm just going to leave it on auto, and I'm going to set it to 0. But you can turn this up and have volume, but for copyright reasons and whatnot, I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to jump back into this game real quick just to show that it is working. I also dig that, like, around the edges, you can kind of see like an illustration of what that console would have looked like. Oops. Dang it. Yeah, I knew that was going to happen. Anyway, because I hit B on that controller thing, it's being stupid. So let's go back into the configuring a controller. Configure a controller. Oops. Let's unplug it, plug it back in. Sometimes the controller things are a little wonky, and that sucks. But let's see. Yeah, so configure a controller. Oops. Let's try it in here. I'll use the keyboard. Oh, because I used there. Because I was pressing B to skip everything, B ended up being like the hotkey, and that's stupid. So I'm going to do up, down, left, right. I'm going to skip all of these again. A, B, X, Y, start, select, left, right. I'm going to skip these. And then for the hotkey, I'm going to press select. It's fine. And then we'll go down to, we'll go back out of this. Let's try this again. It is one of the weird wonky things. Sometimes things don't work the way they should. And you got to go through the configuration a couple of times. I'm going to do a one-player game here. I'm going to do, sure, let's do 50. That's fine. I'm going to go with my man Toad. I've always played Toad ever since I was like 13 or 14. Whenever this game came out, I've always played Toad. So just going to go ahead and stick with that. Of course, this will be a little weird with no sound. So this is why I don't have a gaming channel. Is because I get wrapped up in my game and I forget to talk. So I almost did that. That's fine. But so anyway, this is me playing Mario Kart, which I hope Nintendo doesn't freak the hell out about. But there you go. Okay, guys, so there you go. That's the process of getting Batocera set up on an Intel-based Chromebook. A little wonky in a couple of spots as far as having to connect to the internet in order to install it, and then of course, then once you get it installed, having to reconnect to the internet so that you can get on the network to transfer your ROMs over. You could probably put them on an SD card or a USB stick or whatever, put it in there, copy them over. But that's not how we did it. We did it over the network. And it's always probably a good idea to have that connected just in case you want to move files around. So like I said, that is installing Batocera on a Chromebook. Hopefully you found the video helpful or informative. If you did, a thumbs up would mean a ton to me, helps me and the channel out a bunch. If you want to help support the channel, there's some links down in the description as well. Like if you want to buy me a cup of coffee, I've got a coffee link down there. I've got a Patreon, I've got some merch. This isn't one of my merch shirts, but I like it anyway. Also, don't forget to follow me on Twitter. I'm pretty active on there sometimes. So yeah, gonna go ahead and wrap it up here. As always, thanks for your time. I always appreciate your support, and I'll talk to you in the next video.